Yo, what's up, comedy bicyclists?
What's up, comedy bicyclists?
Back at it again
With
the... Whoa, what was that?
Who are those guys?
I don't know.
Let's let them explain.
Whoa, those were some lit dance moves.
I've never seen a clown like that. I mean, I don't like clowns, but those were pretty cool clowns. What's that?
What's fun?
There's something on your face.
Nothing.
We don't know their true identities, but we don't care.
Yep. We don't judge.
We don't judge.
Clown
Lives matter. Alright, guys.
Let's get on with the video.
Yeah.
Yo, what is up, guys? It's the
What's up, comedy?
Comedy bicycle.
Comedy bicyclists.
Back at it again with the scary stories. And in the title, it says The Creepy Path, Scary Stories for Kids.
For kiddies.
And if you don't know, there was some stuff we had to edit out.
Some technical difficulties.
And so...
somehow it got onto YouTube, and some of you guys saw it, and we are sorry for that. And so we just didn't know of a way to do it, so we just took it off.
Yeah, and so this is for kids. It says it in the title, so hopefully...
should be pretty clean.
Yeah, so let's get it.
Hope it's scary.
Yeah. And then he didn't say thank you.
But then he realized he was outside the house. I mean, inside the house.
Doo-doo-doo.
If he messes up, I'm gonna roast this man.
Alright.
FearTales.com.
Oh, this is already... I peed a little bit.
That was amazing.
Are you writing this stuff down, Hayden?
The walk to school is always the same, ever since I found this quiet little path
Sounds
that
like
runs
Pete
by
Sheep.
my house. It's got trees and bushes on either side that make it hard to see, so not a lot of people know that it's there. But when I found it, I realized that I could make my walk to school a lot shorter, and I've walked that way ever since. And my walk through that way is always the same. I always meet the same two people. The first is a tall man. He always wears this black hat and a black coat. He's quite polite. He always smiles at me and says,
It's a lovely day for a quiet stroll.
he says the same thing every day as I walk past him. Then I come across the second person on my walk through the path. A young girl. She goes to the school at the other end of the path. And she's usually humming when she walks, although lately she's started singing whatever pop song is stuck in her head. But today my walk through the path was a little different. I start the day as normal. I walk along the path and I follow the grassy route. And then I came across the tall man. But he didn't say anything today. He didn't mention how nice it was to take a quiet stroll or anything.
A loud stroll.
He just nodded and smiled and walked on, and I walked along. When I came to the point where I usually meet the young girl, she wasn't there. I thought maybe she's sick or has just gone away. And I kept walking, but then I heard a noise. It was like
She's
someone
done
moaned.
farted. Oh, never mind. Stomach gas.
At first, I
Gets me
thought
every
maybe
time.
it was the wind, but the longer I listened, the more I was certain it was a moan. I couldn't hear where it was coming
Is that a
from,
whale?
and as I listened, it became quieter and softer. Until eventually I couldn't hear it at all, and then there was just silence. Not the usual silence. There were no birds, no wind, no leaves, just a dead silence.
That's scary.
And finally, I couldn't take it. I bolted. I ran to school, and I didn't look back. I decided to walk the long way back after that incident. My parents asked me about school, and I just mumbled about school work and classes, but all I kept thinking about was that moaning sound, and the path and the silence. And I kept thinking about it all that night. It kept me up. When I finally did get to sleep, I slept in. I had wanted to take the long way to school that morning, but now I didn't have time, so I had to take the quiet path. And I did. I came across the tall man as always, but this time it was a little closer than usual, because I was late. He smiled and nodded at me like he normally does and said,
It's quiet again.
I walked along, and then, after a few steps, I realized what he had said, and I realized what that might mean. And I turned around, and I looked at him. He was just standing there, smiling at me wickedly.
He killed the girl.
He slowly raised a severed little finger
Whoa.
to his lips.
Oh, that freaked
went.
me out. What?
For more scary stories, keep visiting feartales.com.
Subscribe. We should watch another video.
Well then, that was...
This kind of it got me at the end with the dude and the finger. I didn't know what it was at first, and I freaked out. I jumped.
It was kind of scary. And they kind of left us on a cliffhanger because we think he killed the girl, but he
Yeah.
could have not killed the girl.
I think that was her dying in the middle of the story. He's like, I think that was her, like, somewhere. I don't know where.
Yeah, and she's like,
Dying.
yeah, she's like, oh. And then, yeah,
Might be. This
Makes-
dude's weird.
makes you think.
I wouldn't care if I was late for school and they're like, here's a tardy slip. Man, if I would have had that the day before, I would have been taking the longest path. Or like, take the bus or something. Mama, can you drop me off at school? Yeah, baby.
But, yeah. I think we're gonna do another story, so be right back. Wait. I think
The
we can...
power of iMovie.
Yeah, we can keep that going. Okay.
Hide and seek. Ready or not. Scary stories for kids.
Yes, this is the same guy.
Fear tales.
Fear tale.
Sorry. I need to go get something to eat. Like, do y'all have like sweet stuff or something? That I can...
Why?
Cause I'm hungry still.
Oh, I smell that.
Smells like chicks, doesn't it?
No, I think chicks smell a bit better than that.
The crystal chicks.
I walk the only road that I have ever known.
Spooky.
Spooky, spooky skeletons. They lie awake as I wear my moccasins.
Massacres.
Moccasins. So, comedy bicyclist, how have your days been going?
Yeah. Alright.
We're just waiting for this to load right
And once
now.
we do that, we're gonna go get us a midnight munchy snack.
I walk a lonely
And then
road,
we'll-
Alright! Don't fall asleep.
Feartales.com.
Fear to...
Hold on, pause it.
Why?
I'm really hungry. Whoa, bro.
Whoa. Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep.
You'll fall asleep.
Don't fall
Sleeping.
asleep.
The very idea of falling asleep was always so terrifying to her. She could not sleep because
What's
she
up with
knew
her
too
eyes?
well what was waiting for her. It was the dream. That horrible dream that kept repeating again and again. She always found herself locked in a box in that dream. There was no light, and it was too narrow to move. The nightmare always ended with the box shattering, and then the horrible sensation of falling.
What?
The first time she had this
Dude, get a
dream,
doctor and
she
some
woke up so
lotion.
terrified
Like, for
that
real.
it took well over an hour before she was able to go back to sleep. The next night, she had the same dream, and the night after that, and every night, the dream returned to terrify her in her sleep, and during the day, left her trembling with fear of what will happen the next night. She tried to talk to her friends and her parents, but she found no solution to her problems. Finally, she gave up and kept everything to herself. 2 weeks had passed since the nightmares first started to terrify her.
I would have
It
been
was
going to
1
like
o'clock
therapy
in
and
the
stuff.
morning, and despite her fear, she finally had to sleep. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and found herself completely covered in darkness. Once again, She was standing in the narrow box. She couldn't even raise her arms. She waited, motionless, like a mummy in its sarcophagus. And then she felt the box shatter on all sides, and the walls of her coffin dropped away, and she felt herself falling.
Sounds like somebody whispering.
She tried desperately
Dude,
to
get
hold
some cough
something,
medicine.
but there was nothing there. She wanted this creepy feeling to stop. She wanted to discover the secret of this haunting and recurring nightmare. This time, she had to know what happened at the end of the dream. After the fall, she forced herself to stay asleep. She didn't want to wake up. She forced herself to stay in the dream. Everything was absolutely silent. There was no wind, no air, just the awful sensation of falling that terrified her and turned her stomach. She was panicking, but she resisted waking up. She felt increasingly overcome by nausea, dizziness, and fear.
Her eyes are
She
freaking
kept
me
her
out.
eyes closed and tried to calm down. Then gradually, the falling sensation vanished, and slowly her whole body felt so relaxed, she had the impression of being wrapped in cotton.
Dude,
She felt more calm,
What
almost
is that
sleepy,
on the
as if she was halfway between
Dude, her face
sleeping
will
and
look
waking.
away. This is actually kind of freaking
She
me
woke
out.
up, lying in her bed. Room was bright, and her mother was kneeling beside her, tenderly watching over her.
She's dead.
Her mother's sweet face was lit by the warm glow of the bedside lamp. She felt safe and very calm. She tried to tell her mother what had happened,
The
but she
Vladimir
could not
arm
move
wink.
her lips. She tried several times, but they
Time.
wouldn't budge. Panicked, she tried to
Dude,
move
I
her
can't
head,
move, like,
but
for
she
real.
couldn't. Then, horrified, she tried to move an arm or a leg, but her body remained still. She was
She's in an
completely
insane
frozen.
asylum.
She couldn't even move her eyes. That's when her terror was complete. Her mother began falling to pieces and decomposing in front of
What?
her. Her skin turned to dust and started to peel off,
That's when you need
revealing
some
the red
lotion.
and tender flesh beneath. Hundreds of small worms crawled out of her nose and mouth.
Ooh.
Her lips gradually broke away and fell off, leaving her jawbone bare. Her eyelids fell off, one after the other. She wanted to scream, she wanted to cry, but she couldn't do anything except stare in horror at the spectacle of what was in front of her. Her terror reached new highs as her mother's corpse decomposed into a mushy mass of flesh and bone. She felt her whole body go numb. She was freezing cold. Slowly she felt herself sinking until everything turned to darkness and everything disappeared. The next day, her parents sadly found her dead in her bed. She
I
had
told you the girl
suffocated
died.
during the night. Unbeknownst to her, she was suffering from sleep apnea. Every night, while she was asleep, her breathing was slowing down until it finally stopped. The alarm caused by the falling sensation in her nightmares had always woken her and prevented her from succumbing to suffocation. But by forcing herself not to wake up, she finally discovered what lay at the end of the dream. It was death.
For more scary stories, keep visiting
Shut up, Fairytales.
Tales.
Alright. So that one was more creepy than the other one. It sounded like something straight out of Edgar Allan Poe's mouth.
Yeah, Edgar Allan Poe's just weird.
And
Death, 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 death.
thanks for watching.
Yeah.
If you like this, please, 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 I know you're watching, comment if you want more. So thank you for watching and clicking on our faces.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram at
Like.
Fake Comedy Bicycle.
Lightly tap that like button, and we'll see you in another video. Peace.
Yeah.
What are Pennyguys?
Alright, ready?
Whoa, what was that?
Who are those guys?
I don't know.
Let's let them explain.
Alright. Whoa, those were some lit dance moves.
I've never seen a clown like that. I mean, I don't like clowns, but those were pretty cool clowns.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
What's fun?
It's There's something on your face.
Nothing.
We don't know their true identities, but we don't care.
Oh, yep. We don't judge.
We don't judge.
Clown lives matter.
Alright, guys.
Let's get on with the video.
Yeah.